Let's create a simple stored procedure, and I want to help you get your head around this process of creating and using these things. You'll notice I'm in the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, and I've clicked on the AdventureWorks LT 2008 database, and I'm going to create this just using a query. So I'll click on New Query up here, and you will notice that right up here on my drop down, I'm in the AdventureWorks LT 2008 database, and I'm going to come down, and I want to just first of all start off. I will do a select, and I'll do top two, all the columns from sales, LT, customer, and I'll just hit enter to fill that out, and I will execute. And notice this is our old friend, the customer database, and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the view, more or less. I want to get the first name, the last name, and a company name here, because I always want to be able to figure out somebody's company name. I'm just going to go back, and I'm going to remove the top two here. I will do first name, and notice since it has populated it for me, I'll just hit a comma, and I get it, and there's no chance of me misspelling it. Last name, comma, company name, and then I'll just hit a space there. If I run this query to check and see if that's what I wanted, yes, it is what I wanted, then I can come down here and say, you know what, let's order by last name. Is that what I like? Yes. Notice we're getting them in last name order here. To make a stored procedure out of this, I'm going to give myself a few lines. I hit return or enter there. I'm going to jump a couple of lines up, and I'm going to type create proc. Now I could spell out procedure, but you can just put proc. I'll just put company name, hit a return as, and then I'll delete and pull that back up. So notice I created proc company name as, and now I will highlight all of that. Don't actually need to highlight it because it's the only thing in my window, but I will anyway. It's a good habit to get into. I'll highlight all that, execute it, and notice it says command completed successfully. Now that created a stored procedure called company name. Now I'm going to erase this, and to run that stored procedure, all I have to do is type the word company name and hit execute, and notice it executes that query. Very similar to a view, but I can do a lot more programming functionality in the stored procedure than I can in a view, and the stored procedures are more efficient, because the stored procedures are going to run the exact same code every time, and SQL can do some pre-processing. It can pre-compile stored procedures, and then the next time we run the stored procedure, you can say, oh, wait a minute, I ran that a few minutes ago. Let me just go grab this compiled code. I don't have to go through compiling it again. Anyway, you can go out there and read about them and see all that kind of stuff that's happening in the background. But what I want to show you here is if you look under programmability, and if you look under stored procedures, and we just created company name, so I'll have to right-click and refresh, you will notice that there is my company name stored procedure. Now what's cool is if I right click and say modify, it will show me the text of my stored procedure, and I can just make a change here and then close it out, and it'll ask me, do you want to save it? And I say yes, and it will save my stored procedure and make whatever change I wanted on it. Something else I can do is right click on the stored procedure, go down to properties, and notice I can see properties on my stored procedure, but I can go to permissions, and I can click search here and browse, and I can choose the users in my database. I don't have any in here right now, but I can say for the public role, then we can grant, notice we can determine who can alter, control, execute, take ownership, or view the definition of a stored procedure. And I will give everybody the opportunity to execute a stored procedure. If I use this one, then that gives them the right to grant permission to someone else, or I can deny certain people. So a lot of cool things can happen here. What's the best thing about stored procedures is, and I'm going to cancel this, all the user has to know how to do is to call the company name stored procedure. This is going to run. Your database administrator is going to want to check your stored procedures. Some of them may actually want to build them for you. But once you gain their confidence, they'll let you build them as a developer, and you really should be. But you now know what's going to happen to this particular database every time company name gets executed. Also, this lives on the server. All those things we talked about in the first video about understanding stored procedures comes into play here. But now let's think about something. That's kind of a cool stored procedure. I can execute it, but what happens if I only want to see one or two of these, or if I'm looking for a particular company? Well, it'd be kind of cool if we could dynamically tell the stored procedure to only pull certain things. And the way we do that is create parameters for our stored procedure using variables. And so what we'll do is we'll stop this video here, and then you can join me in the video called Using Parameters, and we're going to add some variables and parameters to this stored procedure and take this thing up a level. So join me in Using Parameters, and we'll take a look at that functionality on stored procedures.